Driving through the darkness in Myanmar, we're on a packed bus in a place some call the land of shadows.
We're up very early in the morning, and that's because this is the time when the nation became independent, and that of course is what today is all about.
As our convoy comes to a stop, a glimpse of the theatrics to come. They've been preparing for this moment for weeks. Performers shipped in to show their loyalty, all for a parade celebrating bucking British rule 75 years ago. A chance to try and prove to the world and its own people it's thriving. This regime seized power in a coup. Nearly 2 years later, the tanks are rolling back in. Perhaps an obvious bookend for the city of Naypyidaw, a military utopia built on hubris.
Very little has been seen of life inside Myanmar since the coup. Western journalists rarely given any access, but this is a moment the military want to share, and perhaps feels it needs to.
For it's been accused of torture and mass killings, condemned by the UN and sanctioned. Not that money looks like any issue here. The military overthrew a democratically elected government. It claimed the landslide victory was electoral fraud. Since taking over, the junta has locked up and killed opponents. This is the man at the helm, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing. The situation, he says, is now under control, and he's promising the people a vote. But this is a piece of performance art from the cradle of the coup. Outside this theatre, there is real and intense fighting. Peace, currently as elusive as democracy. We wait 6 days to get clearance to leave the capital. This is a country well known for jailing journalists. It is largely because of brave local ones and those willing to risk it all to film that we've heard anything about life here beyond the junta's claims.
Well, after lengthy discussions with the military government, we've been given permission to film elsewhere in Myanmar. It is a chance to see and hear from people beyond the seat of power.
We're on our way to Bagan, a tourist destination they presumably hoped would showcase how secure and stable the country is. The mass protests are long gone. Now mass surveillance is the talking point. It's majestic here. But within minutes, we see a hint of the conflict beyond. Soldiers carrying supplies, crossing the famous Irrawaddy River, where rebellion still rages, an area we were told not to go to. Locals tell us it's nothing new to these waters. and some are deeply anxious. We've decided to protect the identities of everyone we've spoken to. Those who do talk risk being detained and interrogated.
When there is intense fighting over there, they cross the river.
Do you feel unsafe?
Yes, we don't have any safety. We could die at any moment.
How close are we to some of the fighting?
It's not that far. It's about 3 miles away from here.
We'll burn down the whole village, the man shouts. That's allegedly the voice of a soldier about 20 miles away. The military is accused of torching communities. Targeting civilians in airstrikes. And labelling opponents as terrorists. The Tatmadaw is facing a growing armed resistance from the People's Defence Force and ethnic armed groups. The currents of a civil war shifting, and the military doesn't control vast swathes of the country.
Over there is the Pakoku Bridge, and it leads to the Magway region, and we know that fighting is taking place there, but we can't cross because we've been told by the government we're not allowed to, and there are checkpoints on either side. You don't feel far from the trouble here though, and local people have told us they can hear the clashes across the river.
However you frame the balance of power, the economy is fragile here. Many desperately waiting for the arrival of more tourists.
My life has got worse since the coup. I almost lost my job. My savings are gone. We all depend on the visitors for our livelihoods.
What has life been like since the coup?
I hear the sound of fighting from the other side of the river at night.
Do you think there can be free and fair elections here?
I don't think so. They are using their weapons and their power to threaten the people. I don't agree with them.
Most soaking up this sacred sunset are Burmese. It may be safe inside the city, but with conflict around the country, outsiders wanting a pilgrimage to these pagodas may need to take a leap of faith. We're on our way to Yangon when we suddenly get a call from the military spokesperson. He's been hard to reach and has done very few international interviews.
The military is accused of burning villages, running indiscriminate airstrikes, torture, mass killings. Do you have any intention of ending the bloodshed?
But the UN says the regime has deliberately targeted civilians and committed war crimes. Around the mist-shrouded lakes of Yangon, life looks normal. But when you look back to where those birds fly, you see where thousands once marched. A revolution has fallen silent. Many protesters fled, many are in prison. The days of anti-coup tattoos are all but erased.
Why do you think people wanted those tattoos?
Everybody was hyped up. That's why they did it. And at the time, it was like they were showing their strength.
What about now? Do you think people would feel comfortable having those tattoos?
No. When people travel overseas or domestically, they were inspected. Those who travel regularly had to cover them with additional ink. Some people chose not to travel at all.
Does it feel like the military is watching everyone?
They spread the information around and remind others that if they do the same, they will be in the same trouble. As a result, people are terrified.
There's a pervasive sense of fear. The feeling that your every move is being watched. That can be a potent propaganda tool. The stakes too high to share your frustration.
What does life feel like in Myanmar right now?
We live in fear and insecurity. It is impossible to protest because young people are being controlled and arrested. That's why the youth are going toward the armed resistance.
Do you feel like the junta, the security forces, are monitoring people in the resistance?
The junta can simply monitor what young people are doing online. The internet is how they control the youth.
You can force a city to play ball publicly, but you can't crush sentiment. This is a fractured country, and in places now very violent. With that jeopardy, it's very hard to see the military rushing to let go.